Offered her $17,000 to break up with my son. You won't believe what happened. I slid that envelope across the coffee table, $17,000 in cash, and looked her dead in the eye. Take it and walk away from my son forever. What she did next? I never saw it coming. And neither will you. Because this isn't just about money. This is about a mother who thought she knew her own child, a girl who wasn't what she seemed, and a family secret that changes everything. Buckle up. Hey, story lover. Welcome to the Narrative Hub, Reddit Stories. Believe me, this adventure gets wild, but it's only epic with you. Seriously, you make this possible. Want more stories? Greater adventure? Smash subscribe right now. Smash like. Comment below. Let's go. Let me back up and tell you how we got here. My name is Jennifer, and I thought I was protecting my family. I thought I was being the responsible mother. Boy, was I wrong. It started 6 months ago when my 22-year-old son George brought home his new girlfriend, Jessica. She was different. Not the kind of different that makes you smile and think, how refreshing. The kind of different that sets off every maternal alarm bell you didn't even know you had. She was older than him by 5 years. That alone wasn't the problem. The problem was how she looked at our house, our cars, our lifestyle. Like she was cataloging everything, taking mental notes. And the way she touched George, possessive, territorial. Like she'd already claimed him. But George? He was completely smitten. Head over heels in a way I'd never seen before. This kid who'd barely shown interest in dating through high school and college was suddenly talking about moving in together, about their future, about how Jessica understood him in ways no one else ever had. Red flags were everywhere, but my son was colorblind to them all. Jessica worked part-time at a local boutique, drove a beat-up Honda Civic, and lived in a studio apartment across town. Nothing wrong with any of that, except she started hinting about how stressed she was about money, how she was barely making ends meet, how she wished she could contribute more to their relationship. Within 3 weeks of dating my son, she was eating dinner at our house 4 nights a week. Within a month, she had her own drawer in his bedroom. Within 2 months, she was asking George if he could help her with her rent. My husband David thought I was overreacting. Let the boy figure it out, he'd say. He's an adult. But I could see what was happening. This girl wasn't falling in love with my son. She was falling in love with what my son represented. Security. A way out. A meal ticket. The breaking point came on a Tuesday evening in October. I came home early from work and found Jessica in my home office, sitting at my computer. She claimed she was just checking her email because her phone had died, but my computer was logged into our family's banking account. The screen showed our savings balance, $847,000. When I confronted her, she got defensive. Started crying, saying she was just curious and that George had mentioned his parents were comfortable and she wanted to understand his background better. She apologized profusely, but the damage was done. I knew exactly what kind of person I was dealing with. That night, I tried talking to George. I sat him down and gently explained what I'd witnessed, what I was concerned about. His reaction? He exploded. Accused me of being controlling, manipulative, and prejudiced against Jessica because she didn't come from money. He said I was trying to sabotage his happiness because I couldn't stand seeing him independent. You don't know her like I do, Mom, he said, his voice full of disappointment. Jessica loves me for who I am, not what we have. I wanted to shake him. I wanted to scream. Instead, I decided to prove my point in the most direct way possible. Which brings us back to that coffee table, that envelope, and those $17,000 in cash. I'd asked Jessica to meet me for coffee the next Saturday. Told her I wanted to get to know her better, that I'd been too harsh and wanted to make amends. She agreed immediately, too immediately, with a brightness in her voice that made my skin crawl. We met at a quiet cafe downtown. I ordered us both lattes and made small talk for exactly 5 minutes before I pulled out that envelope. Jessica, I said, my voice steady as stone, I'm going to be very direct with you. I know what you're doing. I know why you're with my son. And I know what you saw on my computer last week. Her face went pale, but she didn't deny it. So here's what's going to happen, I continued, sliding that envelope across the small table. Inside this envelope is $17,000 in cash. More money than you'd make in 8 months at your current job. It's yours. All of it. But only if you walk away from George. Today. Forever. You break up with him. You block his number. You disappear from his life completely. I expected tears. I expected anger. I expected her to storm out or slap me or call me every name in the book. Instead, Jessica picked up the envelope, opened it, counted the money slowly, methodically. Then she looked at me with a smile that chilled me to the bone. "Mrs. Patterson," she said, her voice completely different now, colder, more calculated, "you just made a very big mistake." My stomach dropped. "Excuse me?" "See, what you don't know is that George and I have been talking about marriage. Like, seriously talking. Ring shopping. And what you also don't know is that George has been confiding in me about how controlling and manipulative you are. How you've never approved of any girl he's brought home. How you think your money makes you better than everyone else." She leaned forward, still holding my cash. "So here's what's really going to happen. I'm going to take this money because, frankly, I could use it. But I'm not going anywhere. In fact, I'm going to tell George exactly what you just did. How you tried to pay me off like some kind of prostitute. How you think so little of both of us that you believed I could be bought and he could be manipulated." The room started spinning. This wasn't how this was supposed to go. "You wanted to test me, Mrs. Patterson? Congratulations. You just failed. Because now George is going to see exactly who you really are. And when we get married, and we will get married, he's going to remember this moment. He's going to remember that his own mother tried to destroy his happiness with a briefcase full of cash." She stood up, tucking the envelope into her purse. "Oh, and one more thing," she said, pulling out her phone. "I've been recording this entire conversation, just in case you try to deny it later. Thanks for the down payment on our wedding, by the way. George is going to love this story." I sat there, frozen, as she walked out of that cafe with my money and my dignity. But the nightmare was just beginning. True to her word, Jessica told George everything. She played him the recording. She showed him the money. And she spun it exactly the way she'd promised, as proof that I was a controlling, elitist mother who thought everyone had a price. George didn't speak to me for 3 weeks. When he finally did call, it was to tell me he was moving out of our house. He'd been living in our converted garage apartment while saving money and moving in with Jessica. He was done with my toxic behavior and my attempts to control his life. David was furious with me. "How could you do something so stupid?" he demanded. "Did you really think this would work? Did you really think she wouldn't tell him?" But I knew Jessica better than either of them realized. I knew this wasn't over. And I was right. 2 weeks after George moved in with her, Jessica called me. Her voice was different again, not cold and calculating, but nervous. Scared, even. "Mrs. Patterson? We need to talk. Something's happened. Something George can't know about." We met at the same cafe. This time, Jessica looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, her hands shaking as she stirred her coffee. "I need to tell you something," she said. "About why I'm really with George. About what's been going on." My blood went cold. "What do you mean?" "The money you gave me? I didn't spend it on wedding planning. I used it to pay off a debt. A debt that, well, let's just say the people I owed don't take no for an answer." "What kind of debt, Jessica?" She took a shaky breath. "Gambling. I have a problem." "Had a problem?" "I thought I had it under control, but I got in deep with some online poker sites, and when I couldn't pay, they started threatening me. Real threats. The kind that involve people showing up at your apartment." I stared at her, pieces clicking into place. "So when you met George?" I was desperate. I needed someone stable, someone who could help me if things got really bad. And George, he's so sweet, so trusting. He believes the best in everyone. It was supposed to be temporary, just until I could get back on my feet. But I fell in love with him. Really fell in love. And now I'm trapped, because if I tell him the truth, I'll lose him. But if I don't tell him, and he finds out another way. She started crying. Those people I owed money to? They know about George now. They know about your family. They're saying if I can't keep paying them, they'll go after him instead. The cafe suddenly felt ice cold. How much do you owe them? $43,000. And it's growing every week with interest. I wanted to hate her. I wanted to stand up and walk away and let her deal with her own mess. But looking at her sitting there, terrified and broken, I realized something that made me sick to my stomach. I believed her. And worse, I understood why George had fallen for her. Underneath all the manipulation and desperation, there was something real there. Something genuine. What do you want from me, Jessica? I want to disappear. I want to leave town, start over somewhere else, and let George find someone who deserves him. Someone who won't put him in danger. But I need help getting away from these people first. And if I help you? George never has to know the truth. You tell him I took your money and ran, just like you predicted. He'll be hurt, but he'll be safe. And eventually, he'll realize you were trying to protect him all along. I sat there for a long time, staring at this girl who had turned my family upside down, who had taken my money and humiliated me and driven a wedge between me and my son. This girl who was now asking me to save her life. How do I know you're telling the truth? I asked finally. She pulled out her phone and showed me messages. Threats. Photos of George leaving work, going to the gym, coming to visit us. These people had been watching my son for weeks. My hands were shaking as I handed her phone back. What do you need? 3 days later, Jessica was gone. She left George a note saying she'd realized she wasn't ready for a serious relationship, that she'd taken the money from me because she needed a fresh start, and that she was sorry for hurting him, but it was better this way. George was devastated. He called me crying, apologizing for not believing me, saying he should have listened. It broke my heart to hear him blame himself, but Jessica was right. He was safe, and that was what mattered. But the story doesn't end there. 6 months later, I got a postcard from Seattle. No return address, just a picture of Pike Place Market and a short message. Thank you for giving me a chance to start over. George deserves better than what I could give him. You were right to protect him. Jay. George never saw the postcard. He'd started dating someone new by then, a teacher named Amy who made him laugh and never once asked about our family's finances. They've been together 8 months now, and I've never seen him happier. But sometimes, late at night, I think about that conversation in the cafe. About Jessica's tears and her shaking hands and the look in her eyes when she showed me those threats. I think about how wrong I was about everything, about her motives, about her feelings for George, about what kind of person she really was underneath all the desperation. I offered her $17,000 to break my son's heart. In the end, she did it for free because she loved him enough to disappear rather than put him in danger. David thinks I'm crazy for sending her the additional money she needed to truly start over. He thinks I should have let her deal with her own consequences. But I know what I saw in that cafe that second time. I saw a girl who made terrible choices, but was trying to do the right thing in the end. George still doesn't know the whole truth. He thinks Jessica was a gold digger who took advantage of his trust and our family's generosity. Maybe that's better. Maybe some stories are too complicated for happy endings.